If you're a local business here in South Africa, you run a service-based business, a product-based brand, selling online, not selling online, whatever it might be, you're going to love this podcast I just got off with a friend of mine out in Cape Town. We touch on all the points around paid advertising and marketing online for local businesses and why it's still being underestimated. Stay tuned.
Okay, sweet. Let's start.
Cool beans.
So Nathan, how much should a business spend on ads, local businesses here in South Africa?
Okay, so local businesses, it can vary depending on the product, niche, maybe the service, whatever they're doing. Physical businesses to digital can also be a very different ad spend range. But when we speak to guys, we kind of try and hash out what their current budget is and then figure out from there. What we have seen is that most people actually get away with murder around the 100 to 150 Rand a day mark. So that works out to roughly, $3,000, maybe $4,000 a month. They're getting good results depending, again, on all those other factors I just mentioned, but we can have them skyrocket the budget depending on other factors on scaling and so on.
Okay. And would you say, would you say local businesses, like let's say local service-based businesses, they can spend a little bit less than an e-commerce business,
of course,
obviously.
Of course.
Yeah, and it's more so.
That's why I was saying the variation in factors of being digital versus brick and mortar. Yeah, it's going to change.
Yeah,
a lot.
It's like a big factor.
Yes.
And when you think about it, it's more tied into like the size of the audience. If you're brick and mortar, you can really only be marketing in a 5 to 10 mile radius around the actual store.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're an e-commerce business in South Africa, you can target the whole. You can even target international if you do international shipping. So it's such a bigger audience and a bigger target audience. So you need more spend to reach all those people, because you pay per impression.
And not only that, I think that also counts a lot with your attribution settings. But the thing is, we've seen now with a client where, when we were primarily doing Europe and Netherlands and Germany, that was his main areas. But when we go from there, we're trying to launch in the States, which we started in October of 24, that the cost was dramatically increased. And I think it's purely because of the United States being something extremely expensive compared to the rest of the world.
Yeah. And it's almost like that comes to like buying power. Like an American has much more buying power than other places in the world. When you compare it to South Africa, for example, we can obviously speak about CPMs.
Yes.
Here in South Africa, for some of my ad accounts, I think is around 20 Rand. So for 20 Rand, I'm reaching 1,000 people in South Africa. But overseas, it's so much more. Like, what kind of CPMs are you seeing in the United States, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm not going to lie. I have not seen CPMs. We focus primarily on ROAS and CPL, but we're getting about the 50 mark. But this is also, again, very niche dependent. This guy's selling a brand. So it's very, I think, quite low for what he's actually selling. But we're targeting mainly very expensive, very rich areas in the States.
Okay, makes sense. Like, on that. So I came across this guy and he was basically asked, what metrics should you be looking at when running ads? Like, there's so much metrics in the ad account, right? So which metrics should you really be looking at for, let's say, someone that's running their own ads? Which metrics should they be looking at? And he basically said that start with the hard metrics, as like, are you getting leads? What is the cost per lead? If you're running sales campaigns for an e-commerce business, are you getting sales? What is the cost per sale? And then you can start looking at the click-through rate. How is my actual ad performing in the ecosystem? Because if the hard metrics are there, then you're good to go. You don't have to worry about the click-through rate and all that stuff. If you're getting sales at a very good cost per sale, then you don't have to turn off the ad. You can even put a little bit more spend behind it.
Yeah, I would definitely say add on to what you just said. I do agree with that, but the thing is, I think it has a lot to do with the type of business. So if we are focusing primarily on, like I said, local brick and mortar, that's going to be primarily lead gen. And then if you go towards e-com, you're going to have the different costs coming through, or the different metrics that we're going to look at. I think, like you said, lead gen is definitely going to be are you getting leads? How much is that lead? and then you've got to go work out your unit economics around that to understand, are you actually being profitable on each lead, or how long is your sales cycle to profit. But on an e-commerce, I think we can definitely pick up immediately whether it's working or not from just looking at something as simple as sales and ROAS. Like, is it really working?
Of course. And on the note of profitability, like, do you feel like businesses are focusing too much on how much profit they're making off like the first sale?
Yeah, I would say it depends again, because in the e-commerce realm, we definitely kind of see a switch over where brands will spend, but it's hard to get the owner to obviously agree with this type of thing, as I'm sure you can also vouch for. But the thing is, on the first sale, we kind of don't want them to try and get a full-on, 100% profit, if you will. But we want to get that person at least in the ecosystem, even if it costs the full profit, as long as we break even. And then from there, you've got all your other things in the back end that will cater to this client, resell this client, bring them back as a returning customer, and just re-engage, trying to make more profit out of them. Because once they're in the ecosystem, you don't have to pay for that acquisition again.
Yes, or it's just a lot cheaper. Like retargeting campaigns is a lot cheaper than top of funnel campaigns.
I mean, we get
Yeah.
away with murder here locally with guys, e-com brands that I've worked with, where we're getting away with murder at 20, 25 Rand a day on retargeting. Now, you don't want to go higher than
Wow.
that because you're scared of burning out the audience. But yeah, as long as you're
Mm,
keeping your top of funnel filled up with new people, you might never burn it out.
yeah. No, that's some valuable insight right there. I think so basically what we're saying is rather than focusing on how much profit you're making on that first sale, obviously ideally you would want to make some profit, but if you're not making profit, focus on the lifetime value. If you have a recurring product, if you have a business model where people tend to come back, like you shouldn't it's kind of like a no-brainer to be spending money to get those customers in because they're gonna stick with you, they're gonna continue spending with you. And a lot of businesses, I think, they're not even doing the math. They're not even thinking, what is my lifetime value on a new customer?
I got to agree there. I think a lot of businesses, and you can go between both spectrums, lead gen and e-com. At the end of the day, all of it is actually some form of lead generation if you look at it from a holistic standpoint. But the thing is, they don't actually understand their unit economics. I don't think
Mm,
anyone actually understands, especially membership businesses, what is your churn rates? How long is your lifetime value with you? E-com brands, how much are you getting per customer? Again, lifetime value. How many times can you get that person to buy? What is the averages?
yeah.
No one can really answer you that. But then when you want to try and help it out, it takes a little bit of time and effort to build up the data necessary to make those calculations.
Yes, of course. One of my clients is an online coaching business here in South Africa, and what like the kind of results I get for them is like, let's say we do like a 1.5 ROAS per month, but the thing is on cash collected per month, but their client stays with them for a minimum of 3 months. So like again, just the conversation of lifetime value. Like it's okay to not make as much profit or as much a return on your ad spend in the first month. If you have a recurring business model, you know the client's going to stick with you for another 3 or 4 months.
Yes.
That is something you definitely should keep in mind because one business owner might look at the data for the first month and turn everything off. It's not performing. I want like a 2 or 3x ROAS. But what you're forgetting is the client you are signing is sticking for 3 or 4 months. So
Yeah.
that's something you should take into account. How much are you willing to pay to get that return?
Yeah.
You're willing to pay. You're willing to get a 1x ROAS because you're going to get 3 times or 4 times your money if they stay for 3 or 4 months.
Exactly. Exactly. Who said that? I think it was it Dan Kennedy. Someone said that. The one who always wins is the one who's willing to pay the most. I think it
Thanks.
must have been Dan Kennedy or Dan someone Ogilvy, one of these guys. Anyway, that's the marketing world somehow.
Okay. Um, Question around ads. What type of ads do you see working right now?
Type of ads. Are you referring to like Meta primarily and the
Yeah,
objective side of it?
yeah. Apologies. Yeah, I'm referring to Meta.
Okay, Meta and I'm guessing objectives. So like, are we going to pick traffic, leads, sales? What are we picking? Is that
Let's say yeah, let's say from like an e-commerce point of view, let's say sales campaigns
Cool. Okay, so sales
on
campaigns from my
Facebook and
point
Instagram.
of view, I guess. Um, so I guess many people might say something else, but from our point of view, we see an immediate jump between the Advantage Plus coming into play quite heavily. Um, Although it takes a lot of work out of your plate, you do have to still be the creative and do the content end of it because it only knows so much. But what we normally would do is we kind of, from an e-commerce standpoint, create a manual setup in an Advantage Plus and A/B test these two just to see what's going to happen. Many of the times, I must admit, the Advantage Plus does come out on top. I don't think it's anything to do with what we're doing as wrong. I just think that because we're not in front of the PC 24/7 like the algorithm can be, it obviously knows how to serve it and obviously sees the differences in time, delivery, actions taken, engagement, whatever else might be feeding the system. And it obviously again optimizes according to that, but it optimizes then in real time versus what we can do as media buyers. I think it's a very good, bullet to have in your arsenal if you want to put it to the test. It might shock you in the results that it does deliver because you might be experienced 10, 20 years or whatever you want to be. But I think it's definitely going to open your eyes to the possibilities of what it can do for you and obviously ease the load of work.
Yes. And regarding creatives, like what type of formats do you see performing? Like obviously there's a place, there's like every type of creative has its place.
Yeah.
But what type of creatives do you see working? Let's say video ads versus image ads,
So you only
carousels.
get like a small handful of it actually. I mean, you get statics, which are your images, you get your videos, reels, long form, whatever you might call, but they definitely 10 to 1 going to be vertical. You get your GIFs, and carousels is another one, and I think I'm missing one or two now, but it doesn't matter. What we see with the brands that we work with, primarily the one performs out like outstanding with carousels, and that's just statics. Is specifically spec carousels, which is quite interesting. Spec carousels, as in, I mean, putting the actual details about the product itself on the image. Little call outs on the image itself about the product and what is the whole thing about, what makes it so unique. Those we work quite well, and then zooming in on every aspect after that with the carousel. Another client does quite well with just plain old static single image ads, and then another person does well on a middle of funnel level with videos, reels. So I think it depends also on where you are in the funnel itself. That could also be a bit of
Yeah,
a thing. But yes, carousel, videos, and statics, definitely.
interesting. Like for one of my clients, it's a supplement brand here in South Africa.
Awesome.
I only run or I run videos top of funnel. So someone who's never heard of the brand, I run videos top of funnel with, the rise in EGC,
Yeah.
employee generated content. Well, it's more so founder. It's more so the founder actually speaking in the videos, but I have the founder making a video about the supplements, and yeah, CPMs are very good. Like people watch the video all the way through, and it tends to do well because it doesn't look as much as an ad. It's just someone talking about their product.
Yes.
Where and I've seen those videos outperform videos that's more polished. So
Oh,
the
for
video
sure.
of him, it's literally filmed with a phone versus high end camera. Those videos outperform the polished ones by far.
I do have to agree with you there. I think people are leaning more towards the raw footage, as we discussed earlier. They like the raw take versus pre-made, pre-recorded. Leaving it out there for some post editing.
Yeah, and on another topic, with regards to service based businesses, do you feel like all these businesses needs a funnel?
It depends because I think the word funnel or the concept of a funnel is quite misunderstood in the market. I don't think business owners versus us understand. We understand it, and probably not all of us understand it to an exact degree. But I think business owners don't really understand what a funnel actually is. So if we have to break it down, share your insights as well. I don't mind. To me, a funnel is actually every part of the business. They just tie into one greater funnel. So when we say
Mhm.
funnel, It's actually a step-by-step process that actually helps you develop some sort of outcome. Whether that be sales, whether that be internal operations, whether that be whatever. Marketing and sales, typically the word funnels is thrown around a little bit blatantly, but I think a lot of people just try and seek the thing as a landing page more than a funnel. I think that's the understanding. Um,
Okay.
However, landing pages are different because they're just pieces in the puzzle.
So you're saying there's like a confusion between, let's say, a landing page and just funnels in general.
Yeah, I do think there's a massive discrepancy there. Maybe that's just
Yeah.
because no one's talking about it, but yeah, out of the funnels and stuff that we've built, 10 to 1, it is very complicated. They try and push sales through these things when I think in our local market or South Africa, due to a lot of policies and ineligibility around the rules, it makes it a little bit difficult for us to use funnels in the way that a place like America might be able to use funnels.
Hmm. And I mean, in certain instances, you can actually say that Instagram could be a funnel as well,
It is a
because
funnel. It's part of
you
the
can
funnel.
funnel. Yeah, you can run, let's say, messenger ads and have people send a DM to a business, and that essentially becomes your funnel. Your sales process starts in the DMs,
Exactly.
and you can close the lead in the DMs, take them over to a call if you have to, whatever the case may be.
Totally. That I think it's definitely part of your sales funnel entirely. Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. So let me ask you a question. I'll throw one your way. I think we get this quite a lot because I'm sure you also will agree that there's a ton of convincing when it comes to trying to get a new client. Because in our local market, it's very difficult for our people to understand that this type of marketing is actually necessary for all businesses at this point in time, at least. But it's just going to get worse and worse and worse, and the longer you take to get on it, and so on. But a big question we get is actually, is it worth it? Is paid advertising worth it for my business? Is it actually going to make a difference? What is your
I
thoughts
think,
on that?
yeah, I'm one of those people. I think everyone should be advertising. I'm like, even if it's just like, even if you don't have that much budget, you should be running. Even and some people might say this is stupid, but if you have like 1,000 rand a month to spend on ads, use that 1,000 rand to boost a post or two. Like, it's definitely not the best use of your money, but even if you're just doing a little bit of advertising, you're doing better than the business that's doing nothing. So obviously we're not going to tell people they should be boosting. Boosting is definitely not the best way to do it.
Put that out there as a question and just try to get your insight on that.
Boosting is definitely not the best, but if you're boosting at least, that's better than someone that's not boosting, in my opinion.
Okay.
And I feel,
definitely.
yeah, but I feel everyone should be advertising to a degree, especially nowadays. Like, where do a lot of people find businesses? They find them on social media. They find them on Google. So if you're not showing up on those channels, no new people are going to find your business.
Yeah.
You're basically going to die out. And I think people underestimate the power, especially because the businesses we are speaking about, the businesses that don't necessarily believe in advertising is usually your service-based businesses, your local businesses, your med spa, your local gym, your dentist. They don't believe in, let's say, advertising on social media, but they underestimate the power of running ads in a 5 to 10 mile radius around their store or around their location.
Oh, yeah.
Because what can happen is everyone in that 10 to 5 mile radius, literally everyone that's on social media, if your budget is high enough, will end up seeing your ad. And you can literally become an authority in your neighborhood. So everyone will know you are the dentist, the gym, the med spa to go to.
Yes.
Because after a few months, literally everyone and their grandma would have seen your ad on Facebook or on Instagram. And yes, sometimes you won't see the results instantly, not necessarily in the first month, but it's literally a snowball effect. It will, like, the more you spend, the more people see the ads, the more customers you'll get. And I think the type of ads you put out there, you don't only have to put out like discounted ads telling people you're running a discount. It can be value driven. If you're a dentist and you're giving some value around like hygiene and what people can do to
obviously overall do better.
Yeah, so just value in their niche. They can become an authority. They can become the person everyone in that neighborhood thinks they should go to, because this is the expert. This is the expert in their field, and I need to visit this person. So I think when looking at it in that way, a lot of businesses are missing out. And I actually thought about this, but if you think about it, ads are never going to be as cheap as they are right now.
Yeah, that's so true.
It's only going to get more expensive from here. It's the same with the rand devaluating, right? It's the same with everything getting more expensive. Ads is going to get more expensive. So it's never going to be as cheap to get new customers with paid advertising today.
Yep.
It's never going to be as cheap. So I think a lot of businesses that still, they're still tripping around whether they want to do it. They're still, unsure whether they want to jump in. Mm-hmm.
Sorry. What is your opinion about that? Why is it getting more expensive?
So I think it ties in with everything getting more expensive. So it's more so, obviously, I don't know if Facebook on the back end can make things more expensive. Like I'm unsure if they can actually do that, but I think just with everything, all the prices going up, even the price of advertising goes up.
Yeah.
If more people spend money on ads, competition goes up, and then to run ads gets more expensive. So that's also something. Okay, obviously, I'm answering the question beautifully. I think
because that's why I was waiting to hear that, because you just almost hit it on the nail, like the hit of the nail, whatever the saying is. But it's purely because the supply and demand around it is now affecting the price. There's only a certain amount of eyeballs on this platform, yet your competitors are increasing. So there's scarcity to the available eyes, and the one who can pay the most is obviously going to get them. That's exactly.
Okay, yeah, very, very true. So, and I think in South Africa, it's still a little bit untapped. Like we just spoke about the businesses that don't believe in advertising. So
it's still cheap.
The sooner you get this, like, obviously we don't necessarily want more competition, but obviously I want to see my clients succeed. So I want them to, spend more on ads, see beautiful returns, and make a lot of money. Because with ads, it's also consistent, right? So with referrals and, let's say, even posting organically, it's inconsistent.
Yeah,
then your video hits a few views. Yeah. So it's inconsistent, and people rely on inconsistent systems, essentially. They're hoping for more referrals or hoping for more views, or that their videos is going to get thrown out. But when you run ads, you are making sure there's consistent eyeballs on your adverts, and you're basically getting a consistent flow of new customers through paid ads.
Exactly.
So it's like one of those things that can be really consistent for your business. And your business really can't be operating on if, buts, and maybes, and whether it's going to work or not. You gotta make sure there's a
volatility. But yeah, I don't think anyone in business, appreciates volatility.
No. I think if you want to start every month all from scratch, I think that can be extremely
stressful.
Yeah, extremely stressful. I think that's why a lot of businesses are moving to membership type services, or subscriptions, because that client's going to be there the next month and the month thereafter. If you need to get a new client at the beginning of every month, I think, or if you start from scratch, essentially, that's extremely nerve-wracking.
Oh yeah, I want to touch on something we spoke about in the beginning when I asked the question about what is ad, or is it worth it still? Around your personal brand and stuff, do you currently run ads around your personal brand's content towards the business that you're trying to feed, or do you feel that that's not necessary?
So, yeah, I have quite a unique outlook on this. So I feel I'm like one of those people, business owners and even people who don't have businesses should be building a personal brand. And people might disagree with me, but I think in 10 years' time, your personal brand is going to be everything. Like that's the place where someone's going to go to find out who you are.
Yep.
And if you don't have any personal brand on social media, you're basically going to be a ghost. And when I just think of my generation, like let's say most people who are business owners right now, let's say they're in their 40s and 50s. I think I'm making a fair assumption when I say that. So they come from a generation where it's almost like who you know is like, that's the game. If you know someone and this person knows this person, and it's referrals on referrals, and that's the way they do business. They'll call you and ask you, do you have a guy for this? And they'll say yes, and that person gets the business because you trust the guy that just gave you the referral, right? But with our generation, obviously there's still referrals, but it will never go away. But we find the people we want to work with, and we find new businesses, etc. We find it on social media, right? That's where we spend a lot of our time. So we more likely to search for something on social media, and that is where your personal brand essentially will exist. So if you don't have a personal brand, it's definitely going to negatively affect you going forward and in the future, I believe. But to tie into, if I'm running ads to my personal brand and get eyeballs on my personal brand, not currently, I think it's like a capacity thing. If you know you're able to, take on a lot of new clients, you're not at capacity, you can take a lot of new clients, then you should be, advertising your personal brand to get more conversations going, get people to book a call with you, get people to speak to you in the DMs, especially if you have a product that you're selling off the back of your personal brand, right? I even believe that, let's say you're a business owner like me and you, we both own agencies. So yes, you should have like the business that's apart from you, but you are a driver for new clients as well. You as a person, you can use your personal brand to get clients for your agency. Just like a dentist can use their personal account to get clients for their dentistry. And I think that's something that a lot of businesses overlook. Like, to have a face for your brand or your business is like a personal brand, but it funnels people and clients through to your business or to your product.
100%. The full disclosure, I do it. We use it a lot, primarily, obviously, to get new clients. So a lot of our ads come from my content created purely because it's directed towards the people that we're trying to attract. And with that, it gets funneled towards the business, and the business then does the closing of that, hopefully, in numbers that are to our liking. But yeah, I'm full on that, definitely. Personal brand, 100% agree. I was, funny enough, watching a video of Daniel Priestley with, I don't know if you know, Diary of a CEO with Steve.
Yes.
What's the guy's name now? Shit, forgot his name.
Steve Bartlett.
Steve Bartlett, that's the man. That's such a great podcast to listen to. And he was actually just talking about it now, where he believes as well, what you just said, in 10 years' time, personal brands are going to be the way that you're either made or you're not made. Like, it's going to be such a serious distinction, because people are now getting the full power of having choice versus how it used to be monopolized in the past. So,
yeah, no, very true. And on the personal brand topic, and I think it might have been in that podcast, but one thing someone said was, I think it's 7 hours. I think if someone watch you for 7 hours, let's say they watch content, they watch your YouTube videos, and it amounts to 7 hours of watch time, watching you speak. That's why long form videos is much more powerful than short form videos, because you get that 7 hours pretty quickly with, let's say, YouTube videos. But basically what he said, that when it gets to that 7 hour mark, the person watching you starts to feel like they know you, and then that person almost becomes an instant buyer. Like, whatever you're selling, you can easily sell it to that person. And it ties into the fact that we as people only have a limited amount of capacity for how much we can remember and how much basically space in our mind on a day-to-day. So if someone have watched 7 hours of content of you're basically a big part of their
life.
Of their life, what's the word? Of their memory, of like what they can remember, like around people,
like your capacity. Yeah.
Mental capacity. You're a big part of their mental capacity, essentially. So they become like an instant buyer. If you have something to sell, they'll probably feel like they know you almost, and they trust you. And when I thought about it, like I heard this and I was like, okay, makes sense. And then I thought about movies, right? So think about movies. Like people come up to artists and actors and they're like, they go crazy. They want a photo, they want a hug because they really feel like they know the actor. But when you think about it, it's because they've seen the actor in 10 movies for 2 hours. So like who else are you watching and looking at for that many hours?
Exactly.
Like you're probably not, and a lot of times you're not spending even as much time with friends and family, you know?
Oh, that's actually
So,
true.
so, but yeah, that basically, it's just an interesting fact. And I think that's why people should also be posting long form content and, you know, just make content because and we're in an age where so much people can see your content. So, you know, it's basically every post you make is like a lottery ticket.
Oh yeah.
A post can go viral. It doesn't even have to go viral. If it's aimed at the right audience, they'll see it. They maybe become a client of yours. They maybe start working with you. You maybe get an opportunity out of it. Like you're basically like, yeah, you're not taking a gamble. Like it's almost like every single time you make a post, it's like putting in a lottery ticket for free. You obviously took some time to make the video, but it didn't cost you a cent necessarily.
Yeah, besides your time, but I mean, you never know what can happen with that one. You know, that's the thing. The lottery ticket is actually quite a good analogy. You never know what you're going to
Mhm.
get when you put it out there.
So tell me, Nathan, what is the difference between advertising on Meta, which is now Instagram and Facebook, and then Google? What's the difference between the two?
Paid advertising difference would primarily be that the Google side of stuff, YouTube, Google, typically tends to be higher intent, meaning the guys and girls who are looking at the stuff that you're sharing or you are running ads for are primarily doing a ton of research, so they know exactly what they're looking for. So you're kind of touching on a very warm-ish audience there already. They're just willing to do a little bit of research and then they're going to find the one they're going to buy from versus coming to a platform like Meta, which is obviously the ecosystem of Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp. But that side of it all is very interruption based. So what happens is social media was a place where they could look at their friends, you know, what the guy did this weekend, how did the girls go and party or whatever it might be. But with that, in that space, you then slot your ad in and it becomes an interrupt in their pattern that they're trying to, you know, scroll through. And that is the big difference between the two. The one is interruption based and the other one is search intent. Um, we find that a lot of our clients are Meta and we try and help them, you know, finalize this channel because we primarily believe in sorting out one channel. Once you've maximized that channel to its capacity, we then have to look for a second channel and then obviously moving towards maybe Google or TikTok or whatever it might be after that.
Yeah, and do you think that most businesses start on Meta because it's a little bit cheaper?
I would say they'd start on Meta primarily because they think it's cheaper or they think it's easier. But if you listen to a lot of the guys in our game, Sabri Subi is a guy who will also tell this to you. But he will also vouch for the fact that Google is probably the easiest platform to start with, and then trying to sort out Meta, which is a lot more complex afterwards. But it's not what the media portrays. It's always Facebook, Facebook, Facebook. So that's why people tend to go that way. What is your take on that? Do you agree with me there, or how do you feel the market goes with this stuff?
Like, obviously, I agree with you with regards to higher intent buyers being on Google. Like, it's a no-brainer. They're actually searching for your product, and then you're running a search campaign, and they land on your website. So you're gonna get a lot of people who's ready to buy. Where with Instagram and Facebook, Meta, you have to basically do a lot of convincing, or the people are still going to be in the discovery phase where they discovered your product and now you need to convince them to actually become buyers. So that's why we have top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel in more so with Meta, because you need to take the people through the funnel of discovering the product, making the decision, making the purchase, showing them reviews, making sure you show them that you're credible.
I just want
Yeah,
to pop a nugget in there. I think it's Gary Vee who said that you need the statistics have changed where a person needs at least 21 touch points with you before they even consider buying. Something like that. It's ridiculous.
yeah. Yeah, I saw something like that. I think on the low end, I think for low ticket, it's the least is eight touch points for low ticket products,
Yo,
which is insane. Like, which
still
is
a lot.
absolutely insane. And I think, yeah. So, but that's where Meta is actually quite good, because it can basically show your potential prospect, or your ideal client, show your product or what you're selling at different angles. It will serve the person, it will serve them a review, it will serve them a product feature, it will serve them a testimonial. And after, let's say, that 8 touch points of visiting your website once, twice, 3 times, seeing the ads 3, 4, 5 times, then they're ready to make that purchase. And that's where Meta is actually quite good, of converting a person who's never heard of your business to a person that loves your business and is becoming a reoccurring customer.
You say that that happens quicker on a platform like Meta from a paid advertising standpoint, or is Google still faster for a conversion?
I think Google is probably still faster. It depends. If the person has heard of the business, like, I think I can see Facebook and Google complementing each other insanely well, because someone might get introduced to a product on Facebook and Instagram, and then they go and search for it on Google, or they go and search, because it's also been said that a lot of people are actually doing their reconnaissance, and they're actually making sure, like, they're doing maybe a price comparison. They're checking out 2 brands. And where do they do that? They do that on Google. They go and search for different brands that offer the same products. They look at the price. Maybe there's a little bit of a differentiator, but where were they introduced to the business? Most probably on Meta, on social media, or on TikTok. And then they go and search for it on Google.
Wow, that
But
changes the dynamics. Wow.
yes, but with that said, I also feel that if it's something that people usually search for, like, if it's not as competitive, let's say, I think Google is obviously does insanely well, because if they search for it, they go onto the website and they buy. Where with Facebook, you obviously do need to do a little bit of convincing. You can't just be putting out one ad and hoping for the best. You need to hit the prospect from different angles, different messaging, and that ties into it being a little bit more complex. I haven't thought about it that way, because I always felt that Google is a little bit more complex for me, but I actually don't think it is. I think it is a little bit more straightforward.
I think it could be because we primarily deal with Meta, and that could cause the confusion a little bit. But I think overall, I just think over the UX design around Google is a little bit more complicated than Meta can be. Like
Mm.
trying to get from the point where you said I'm making a campaign to launching it with a
Yeah.
budget. It almost seems a lot easier on Meta than it is on Google.
Yeah.
But that's just because I think you've been on it so many times, so you know exactly what buttons to click. But yeah,
Yeah.
so I guess we kind of touch points on a hell of a lot of stuff here, like quite a lot of value added here, benefits, what local businesses can gain, and why they should still be doing it, or if they haven't, they should be getting on the boat. It's going to cause obviously saturation and a little bit more higher prices for advertising, but hey, if you want to be left behind, then don't do it. Should people be advertising on multiple platforms at once? What is your take on that?
Good question. I think my first thought is, what is your budget? Like, if you don't have a big budget, I'd say start with Meta. That, out of my experience, I feel like you can get good results with a slightly small budget on Meta. I've seen businesses do well with between 3 to 5 grand in ad spend per month. Like, obviously, you're not going to get insane results, but you're going to get a positive return on ad spend.
Yeah.
Which where on Google, there's a lot of facets to it. You need to exclude negative keywords. You need to do like a trial run per se to see what works and what's not working, what type of people are clicking on your search campaign, for example. But I think with Meta, you can get customers for cheaper if you have less budget. But I think once you have the budget, you should be advertising on all platforms. I even tell businesses that they can start advertising on TikTok. They should. TikTok
Quite
is
pricey, isn't it?
like TikTok isn't pricey in terms of how much people you can reach. right? So
And the
CPMs.
demographic is obviously a lot younger.
Yes, so that's something you should keep in mind. But I think I think a lot of people, to reach a lot of people on TikTok is cheap as hell. Like you can reach 1,000 people on TikTok for 7 Rand. I think I ran a campaign not too long ago for 7 Rand. But what you just said, the demographic is a little bit younger. So I think there's less buying power on TikTok versus Meta and Facebook, or Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah,
Um,
but I wouldn't discount
so
that because that's that's the generation who's entering the workforce eventually. So
yes.
they're going to have the buying power.
Yes. So if you have the marketing budget, I'd say you should be advertising on all these platforms. You should be advertising on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. And the thing is, with pixels, right? You're getting someone from TikTok to go onto your website, and then you retarget them again when they go onto Meta, and then you retarget them again when they go onto Google. Like you're basically never leaving. You're never leaving their feed. You're they've entered the ecosystem, and you can target them from all angles and every single platform. So especially if you have that stuff set up, if you have a pixel, if you have your Google tag installed, if you have your TikTok pixel and your Meta pixel installed, you can basically retarget this person, on every single platform. And then you have the retargeting of email. So like literally every channel.
What do you think is happening with email? Do you think it's dying?
No, I think it's still alive and well. I think maybe it has deteriorated a little bit. I think there's so many people being bombarded with sales emails every single day that like Gmail and all these different email providers are basically sending these straight to spam, or putting them under a promotions heading or something, and people don't even look at those. They only look at the work emails or other type emails. So I think with competition and with these email providers doing that and pushing more of these sales emails to spam, it's getting a little bit harder to get good results with email. But I still think it's alive and well. I see businesses do very well with retargeting emails, abandoned cart emails. If you don't have that set up, I think on average, I think it's like 20%. You can increase your revenue with about 20% if you implement, let's say, retargeting emails, so abandoned cart emails, or sequences like that to
It's
get
just so
to get the
funny.
customer to
I do
convert.
agree with you there. It's just so funny. I just quickly went up here and just checked out a blog from Shopify now. And they're saying that 65% of email marketing professionals, who obviously primarily do this, are saying deliverability is becoming a hell of a lot more difficult. And obviously they're still getting good arrivals in the inbox and open rates, but still quite hectic. They say in 2024, last year, the average email click went through, the click-through rate was only 2.6% across e-commerce brands.
Wow.
That's tiny. That's tiny because
Yeah.
I can imagine some e-commerce brands are sending millions of emails.
Yeah. No, that percentage is quite low.
But they're not
Is that
saying,
is that the deliverability percentage?
yeah, so the
Sorry?
click-through rate, the moment it lands in there, how many people click from the email, obviously, into your site or the product. But they do say, yeah,
Yeah.
analysts expect a total email marketing revenue of 9.5 billion in 2004. So this blog might be a little bit old, but they project the revenues to be about 18.9 by 2028. So there's an increase, but I just think you're also going to have an increase with that increase of sales and deliverability and maybe getting more click through. I think you're going to have that same deliverability increasing your spam rates as well, because
Yes,
we know for a fact there's a lot of people out there that just have either bots filling out forms or someone thought they're interested and then they're actually not.
for sure.
But yeah, that's quite scary. These are, I still remember reading it about 2 years ago where they said 70% of your email does your sales. Like it's still equated for 70% of sales across the board. This is quite shocking.
Yeah, that is hectic.
Cool. So now we finish off with that. What is your take on like the organic side of stuff still? We obviously spoke a lot about paid advertising and marketing on these platforms versus on a paid spectrum. What is your take on organic? Posting on these platforms.
Yeah, so when it comes to organic marketing and posting on social media for businesses, local businesses in South Africa, e-commerce businesses, um, it depends on whether your target audience is, let's say if you're a local business with a little audience, you just have, let's say, some sort of practice in a town somewhere, posting organically is more so a social proof game. It's to make sure that you have a presence because people will look you up. They will see what's going on in your social media channels, and then they'll make a decision on whether they want to buy, whether they want to become a customer, right? Because your posts, it's very hard to really determine where your post is going to land and who's going to see your videos. Because unless you address a very specific client, unless you, let's say, even mention the town or the place your business is at, it's probably not going to be shown to those people. It's unpredictable. That's like the one thing I would say about social media and organic marketing. It's very unpredictable. But if you, that's why a lot of the times when I post or when I tell businesses, even to run ads, it's very important to tell the people where you are situated. To tell them, like, my business is located in this area. So people know, okay, this is for me because I can actually go to this business, or no, this is not for me. I'm in a different province. I can't go to this business. And then it kind of, algorithm will show it to the people that can actually go to your business if you use the right language and if you tell them where your business is situated. But if you serve everyone in South Africa or everyone around the world, you can basically post whatever you want and your video is basically going to get thrown out to the right person. Obviously, you need to make good content, but I think a lot of people think social media is a very big revenue driver, and I don't think that's the case. I think it's more so a social proof thing. I think people go and look at your social media for social proof. They want to make sure you are legit. They want to see some testimonials before they buy, right? They want to see that there's engagement. They want to see that there's other people who think your business is I think about the day and age we live in. People are getting scammed. They want to see that the business they are shopping from or is legit. And how can you portray your business as a legit business? Through social media, through having posts where they can see your staff, they can see you, the founder, talking about the business. They can see that, okay, there's real people behind this business I can trust, I can purchase from this business. People think it's going to get them sales by just making a post. I think that's where they're wrong. Like, let's say you run ads, someone sees your ad, then they go to your social media and they basically check you out, they vet you, make sure you're legit, and then they end up purchasing. So social media is a necessity, but it's not that big a driver in revenue, like just from posting. It's something you should do, but it's not going to directly correlate more sales in a lot of cases. Like,
I think to what you just said there, purely just posting is obviously not the game, because these platforms don't serve your post like they used to. They prefer you to do the advertising side of stuff. And we can obviously dive into the percentages if you know them. I'm pretty sure you might know. But the other thing that I wanted to just say is about posting organically still adds that key of relevance to your page. So if they do research, they can see, hang on, they only posted like 2 days ago, so they're still relevant. This people might be legit. And it adds to that whole trust factor. If you haven't posted in over 6 months, obviously someone's going to raise the question, is this company still alive?
Yeah, very good point. Like, you should keep your post update, your feed updated, and post, at least once a week. Yeah. On the low end, I think you should be posting at least once a week. For local businesses, it's also important, like you just mentioned, they might not be getting a lot of clients from social media, but use it as a trust factor, use it as a social proof mechanism to get people to trust your business. So you should have a digital presence, definitely. I actually had this discussion with someone the other day, and it was basically between like social media management, on whether someone managing your socials and someone running your ads, which is like more powerful, because we reach out to a lot of businesses and then they tell you like, no, don't worry, I have someone for my socials. Like, they obviously don't understand the paid advertising and the organic marketing side of things. There's obviously a big difference. So and this ties into what I said earlier, like, just posting isn't necessarily going to get you more sales. Yeah. Like, you're basically taking a shot in the dark and hoping for the best, hoping it's going to reach your ideal client and that they're going to purchase. Paid advertising is a lot more targeted. It's a lot more, It's going to reach the right person if you do your targeting correctly, and if the creative speaks to the right person, your ad is most probably going to reach your ideal customer. But with organic, it's not like that. Like, you're basically putting it up, hoping that the platform serves it to the right person, but you really don't know. Like, afterwards, you can go and check analytics and see if it worked, but like, it's very unpredictable. So a social media manager they'll grow your following, they'll get you more views, but are you actually getting more sales from that, or
Yeah,
is
that's
more
what I was
money
just
getting
about to
put
ask
into
that
your
question.
pocket?
That's a follow-up question. I mean, does your following actually serve your sales? Because I can obviously vouch for this, that the fact that when I kind of had some virality on 2 or 3 videos on my Instagram alone, and it took me way over 100,000 followers. There's been a decrease in that now, obviously because we obviously don't align or whatever it might be with these avatars. But the thing is, that didn't increase anything. So I guess the correlation I'm trying to break here is your following amount doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to make more sales.
Definitely not. I
And
think it depends on who's following you. I
yeah,
think it's more so who is the people that's following you, not the amount.
and I think with the change where we were, influencers and stuff like that, going towards micro influencers, now you can see that the people are moving towards much smaller followings, but the people are super engaged. That is the key. Having them extremely engaged with what you do and what you share is obviously going to be the driving force, and it obviously probably directly correlates to the sales that you have as well.
For sure. I think having a lot of followers is being put on a pedestal, but I've seen people with 1,000 followers making a lot of money. Businesses
Exactly.
with just 1,000 followers making an absolute killing, because you're basically you're talking, and when you make content, you're talking to your ideal customer, and that might be a very small percentage of people, but that's fine because that's the only people that can buy from you. So you don't want your content to appeal to everyone. You want to make sure that you're talking to the right person's content. If you just go, that's also the thing with social media that could actually hurt your brand, is they go do these trends, and just because it's a trend, it ends up getting a lot of views. But the eyeballs and the people seeing the content isn't necessarily your ideal customer, right? So the social media manager obviously felt like they did a good job because they're getting you a lot of views. But just because you got a lot of views doesn't mean the right people saw the video. That's actually more important than the views you're getting. So I think, yeah, something for social media managers to think about, obviously. And if you have a social media manager as a business, it's definitely something you could ask them, is basically make sure that they're reaching the right people, not necessarily how many views or how many followers you're getting. Is the followers and views you're getting the people that's actually going to buy?
Yeah,
And that's something you should keep an eye
I
on.
agree. Look, I don't know. We've got all our own separate takes around what these different, call them titles, if you will, under the marketing realm. SMMAs. We've got growth hackers. We've got media buyers. Whatever you want to call it. Um, I just feel like if you're not on a point where even if you're doing just social media management and you don't understand how to run the ads, that you should not try and do it then, because you're just going to hurt the company that you're trying to help, and obviously not get them what they're looking for. But also because I think your understanding needs to be there before you decide to do something like that. Having no knowledge behind the action you're trying to take could just lead you down a spiral, which can obviously hurt your reputation, and you don't obviously want that. Um, we had currently, and it's actually why I'm mentioning this, is because we had a client who spent tens of thousands on a whole bunch of other stuff with other marketing companies, and then they just let him down because there was absolutely no way of tracking leads. There was no way to know that these leads were actually coming in. There was no way that you could actually see that the funnel was actually developing, and saying this how much traffic came in, this how many of those traffic turned into leads, and this is how many of those leads became customers. There was no way of tracking that. 1 week with us, the guy was eventually just having that in his pocket. 1 week. And he still phones me till today about this and trying to tell us that he's actually very grateful for the fact that this is now open to his eyes, because now he can understand his customers, trying to develop, obviously, the finer silhouette around who his ideal customer is. But having those key things are going to be quite valuable for a business going into the seriously digital age that we are with AI. But you need to understand who you're selling to. And obviously, if you don't understand these things, is touching on point number one. You don't understand how to do media buying, go and learn. go and do it. It's not that difficult, actually. You just need to know how to do it. And if you hit certain obstacles, how do you overcome those obstacles? Because there is going to be obstacles that you're going to hit. And I'm pretty sure the first one you can probably vouch for as well is scalability. Once a customer hits a certain ceiling with spend, just raising the budget doesn't mean they're going to make more sales. They have to find another way, and that comes with experience.
Yes, of course. I also think you said an important point. Like, I think there's a lot of businesses that have bad experiences with agencies, right?
By far.
And I think one thing they don't realize a lot of the times is they see these big agencies and it's like the agency has all these amazing results. But one thing they are forgetting is a lot of the times it's a junior media buyer that's going to run the account, right? It's not going to be the one at the top, the one that's experienced. It's a junior media buyer that's going to run the account in most cases. So you think you're going to get, you're going to get this person with a lot of expertise, but sometimes it's an entry-level media buyer running the account, and that's where a lot of things go wrong, right? Because it's someone that's still learning the ropes, and nothing wrong with that. Everyone needs to start somewhere, but the client obviously goes into it with, seeing all these results and thinking they're going to get this amazing expert on their account to run everything, and then it ends up being an entry-level media buyer, and then they just mess up the account. They're still learning with your money, essentially. They're using your money to learn how to run ads, which is quite scary. And I've seen businesses that really lose a lot of money if the media buyer doesn't know what they're doing. I've looked at accounts
about this, but I mean, it is an honest topic. It really is, because we deal with this daily. You hear it from your customers, and new customers are coming in about them talking about this stuff, and no one is actually trying to say something.
Yeah, it's scary. Like, I feel that's like one of the big problems with big marketing agencies. Like, obviously we own a smaller agency, so we're not trying to step on anyone's toes, right? But we used to, or I used to work for an agency, so I know the dynamics of how they work. Obviously, the junior media buyers, and not all of them are bad, but they are the ones running the accounts in most cases. The senior media buyers will take more of like a management role, or they'll oversee the junior media buyers, but they don't work on the accounts a lot of the times. And I think businesses should just be wary, but I also think they should make sure they are provided with data and what's actually happening on the accounts, because then they can obviously make informed decisions. I think a lot of the times, if they're not getting provided with data, how are the ads actually performing? How much am I spending? How much leads am I getting? Reporting needs to be top notch, because then you can basically flag bad performance early on. If you can see a week in, or a week, 2 weeks in, you can see that you're spending a lot of money, but you're not getting, you're not getting a lot for your money. You're not getting a lot of leads, not a lot of sale. This can obviously be flagged. But if that information is not getting provided to you, a month goes by, and then you see you've lost a lot of money and you didn't get anything for it. So, and a lot of these agencies, they charge massive retainers as well. So not only are you spending money on ads, but you're also paying the agency. So yeah, that's also something to keep in mind. And on that, and I think this is something completely different, but I struggle to understand why businesses were spending money on, let's say, a social media manager for a while. I didn't understand it. I felt like your business obviously needs to run ads. You need to get a constant flow of new customers, and now you're putting it up to fate with someone just making posts and hoping this will get you more customers, right? And I basically thought about it, and then I figured out, I think the biggest thing with that is, with social media management, you pay the social media manager, and that's that. You pay them, let's say, 4,000 Rand or per month, and then they make your posts and they do all the social media side of things. And there's no other costs, right? So it's a little bit more intriguing. You just pay this person and they're going to sort it out. That's the way I think it goes. And with paid advertising, you obviously need to pay the person that's running the ad, and you need to spend money on ads. So it's a bigger financial burden, right? So I think that is why people sometimes opt for a social media manager over someone to run their ads. But obviously, I think, and I'm biased, obviously, because I'm a paid media specialist. I run ads. So, but I feel it's more effective to run ads. You should have a social media presence, but
I'm with you on that. 100%.
Running ads is much more it's much more effective, and the results you can get is a lot better than just posting and hoping.
Well, it's much more effective, but the end of the day question is you will see an ROI, whether that's negative or positive. But then you'll know where you stand. You'll never have to.
Oh, it's actually, valid. So with paid advertising, I can show my client how much money we are getting. I can show them how much money the ads are generating. With social media, look, this is how many views I got you, how many followers I got you, but it didn't even put a cent in my pocket, or you can't even attribute. Even if a person did come through that channel, how do you attribute? How do you know they came through social media? You just hope, or you think they did, right? So that's also something to think about. I think when businesses shouldn't only be doing socials to do socials. I think they should give a little bit of more thought when it comes to whether they should be doing paid advertising, just posting. I'm actually someone that would say, do a little bit of posting and paid advertising. And if you have the budget, then go all in. Get a social media manager if you really want. If you don't have the time, and do paid advertising. But paid advertising is actually going to put money in your pocket, whereas social media management, it's a little bit up in the air on whether you're going to get results or not.
I think we're going to get flack on this, but it's okay. It's okay. We've smarted at least a little with the understanding we have. But, I think also touching on that point, remember we asked just now about the different platforms and should you be on all of them? I think, it's a great point, but not all platforms are going to serve all businesses. And I think that's just something else that some businesses might forget. If you are more consulting and business orientated, so you do online courses or you consult online with business owners and so on, more like a coach or mentor, then I think, places like LinkedIn and Google will probably serve you better, and YouTube, versus trying to do something on Meta. Because to be all fair, I think a lot of old founders or old business owners that are doing millions and millions per month are obviously not using Facebook, to be quite honest. So I think
it's the whole thing of that analogy of Lamborghini and Ferrari not doing adverts on the TV, right?
Touching on that now, why are they doing advertising now? All of a sudden, now they're on these platforms. Now they're advertising.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're advertising on these platforms all of a sudden. I find that very weird because I always believed in that. When you sell something premium, Rolex, Lamborghini, Ferrari, you never had them on TV or paid advertising. Now all of a sudden they doing billboards, they got paid ads on social media. It's ridiculous. What happened?
It's interesting. I think, obviously I don't know, but maybe they did have a drop in sales and they felt like something had to change. I can only think that could be the case. If they obviously felt like, business isn't going as well as it used to, so they have to change the way they do things. That's the only thing I can think of. Because if things were going good, they wouldn't make any changes. You really only make a change like that, a big change like that, if things aren't going well. Then you obviously need to change the way you do things.
I totally agree with you.
So maybe there were a little bit of a dip in sales. And they were like, okay, we need to revise this. We need to make changes. We need to advertise in a different way. And going to social media, it's a cheap way of advertising. It's not that expensive for these big brands.
Look, I'm going to quickly check here now just to make sure my facts are in line. But if they are, and they currently are running, so let's just look at Lamborghini total, over the total. Okay, they don't have any active current ads. A lot of their stuff is inactive, but their last ones were posted now in between the 4th of December and the 1st of January.
So they are running ads. They're all running ads.
Somewhere they are running, but that's now why I want to close off with that, just to make sure that we put that out there. Because if business owners feel that they do not necessarily need to run ads, then why are the big boys starting to use these platforms?
Even if you have a high-end product, like you say, because a lot of people that offers a high-end service or a high-end product, they'll feel like, no, advertising is not for me. I'm going to get all the wrong people. But like you say, if Lamborghini is doing it, one of the most expensive products there is
Yo,
Like, why aren't you doing it? Essentially,
Ferrari currently has 160 running ads that are active.
wow, and that's on Meta, right?
That's just Meta.
Wow, interesting.
No, that's yeah. That I think is a
This should be a new thing, right? That this is they only started doing this probably not too long ago.
let's go. Well, yeah. Let's.
How long I've been living under a rock?
I'm gonna put the ads on inactive and active, so we can go back to the bottom and see how far down they go. This could take a while, but I'm already getting into November 24, so this could go on for quite a while. Okay, let's call it the last quarter, if that may be.
Okay,
But still, they did have ads. Yeah, we're talking in
yeah,
October, so they did have June
interesting.
2024. Yes, see, okay, so we go from June to November, so they probably didn't do anything between June and November. Look, might be minimal because they are still premium. Maybe they want to keep that analogy alive somehow, but I do think that they have seen the possibility of
The
what can be
power.
done. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's a stupid little nuance from our side, but yeah, I think that's pretty cool. So, anything else from your end?
No, good chat.
Wil je afsluiten of wat wil je?
Same time next week.
Okay, so same time next week. Lekker. All right, thank you so much, Stefan. I appreciate it. Thanks for the call today and bringing me on, yeah. And
It's a
then
pleasure, brother.
let's go share the crap out of it.